What's up, fags and fagettes? Welcome to another video. It's your boy Rariger, and we've got some spicy drama today, not your usual slop. We're taking a look at McJuggernuggets. Probably a name you haven't thought about in years. I sure as shit haven't. I mainly knew him from shit like the Angry Dad videos, Angry Grandpa, shit where he and his family would create fake skits and do a bunch of crazy shit for YouTube views. Honestly, surprised he's still at it 10 years later, but hey, as they say, the grind never stops. Well, he got into a wee bit of controversy when him and his wife sat down to film their reaction to learning their baby would have Down syndrome. People were obviously going to get pissed about filming such an intimate moment online and trying to monetize it, but he later announced on the site formerly known as Twitter that his wife had aborted the child. If you've been online within the past decade, you know not to touch the pro-life, pro-choice debate with a 10-foot pole. Without further ado, play that shit. Alright, so let's get into this shit show. This week, my wife and I made the very difficult choice to terminate the pregnancy due to trisomy 21, also known as Down syndrome. The choice was not made lightly. We really appreciate all the personal stories that you guys shared with us, especially the unconditional support received from fans with no matter what we decided. I know some of you may be very disappointed to hear this news. We are devastated. This has been extremely traumatic for both of us, especially Ashley. He goes on to talk about what causes Down syndrome. He talks about how he was shocked but optimistic, talks about the difficulties that raising a child with Down syndrome entails. Personally, I understand why the two wouldn't want to raise a child with Down syndrome, but that's the unfortunate reality of having kids. You don't get to choose how they turn out, gay or straight, trans or cisgender. The kid pops out how they'll pop out. You shouldn't try and have a kid if you aren't willing to take care of them, no matter how difficult it ends up being. Dave Bruno replied to McJuggernuts saying, "To anyone reading this who might be facing a similar cross the roads, meet my son Josh. Josh is 3 and has Down syndrome, the very condition shared about here in this post. We received a prenatal diagnosis at roughly 10 weeks. Some of the complications we feared happened, but that wasn't the end of the story. Josh was born early and spent a month in the hospital. At 1 year old, he had open heart surgery. Now he's 3, loves life, and is thriving. The hard days didn't win." You have some more Twitter users talking about their experiences with tests being false positives and that their child was born without Down syndrome. You have users such as Ben Zeisloft saying that abortion is murder and what he did was wrong. You have users pointing out the hypocrisy in aborting a child with Down syndrome while keeping a dog without kidneys alive. You have more users pointing out how disgusting it is to go on YouTube and Twitter sharing this personal shit with the internet, one user in specific saying, "I can't believe we live in a society where people feel comfortable sharing the fact they murdered their child on Twitter. You didn't terminate the pregnancy, you had your child executed for the crime of not meeting your standards," another user went on to say. Imagine the message you are sending right now to every person with Down syndrome around the world. You're telling me that their lives are not worth living. You are telling them that if their existence is an inconvenience for someone else, that the person should have the right to kill them. Honestly, my biggest issue with this shit is that they felt the need to go out of the way and upload this to YouTube and then Twitter, thinking what? That this would go well? That this wouldn't become an internet shitstorm that would blow up in their face? If I had to take a guess, he had the video filmed, got the live reaction, and said to himself, "I can get some clout out of this," which is the most disgusting thing imaginable. It's one thing to get the kid aborted, it's another thing entirely to use said abortion for clout on the internet. Asmongold replied to McJuggernuts saying, "Based, I'd kill the kid too. Down syndrome is a lifelong impairment, and it would be better if no one had it. Being able to control and filter out those defects is better for everyone. Common eugenics W." A user replied saying, "There is definitely a better way to say this, my guy." Asmon replied saying, "I avoid using euphemisms or soft language because I believe it obscures the nature of the truth. People use soft language to hide from being accountable to the reality of their own actions." Regardless of if you're an Asmon fan or not, I think we can all agree that this is a terrible look. I actually like the guy's content, used to watch a ton of it back during the Diablo 4 launch, but Jesus Christ, you couldn't have taken a fatter optics L, but ending with common eugenics W is fucking insane to me. Least I can say is he isn't trying to sugarcoat his take. McJuggernuggets went on to talk about how the internet hates him for losing his child, which, quick aside, it's ridiculous to call it the loss of a child when you two went out of your way to abort the child. You can grieve the fact that you made that decision, but it isn't a loss. It was a choice. Anyway, he goes on to talk about the things people said in tweets, receiving death threats, talking about how gross it is comparing his child to his dog with stage 4 kidney disease. I'm not going to read the whole text, but it'll be on screen. Asmund then went on and replied to a second set of tweets saying, I originally defended you, but after looking at your channel is the most demonic amalgamation of sympathy slop and tragedy porn that I've ever seen. I can't imagine how much of a freak you would have to be to make content like that. Genuinely sick and depraved. Hey, you can agree with the decision, but you still think they're terrible people. With that said, sorry for the downer video, not really the funny shit I usually cover, but it was interesting to me, it might be interesting to you. With that said, like, comment, subscribe. If you made it to the end of the video, let me know what you think so I can do better in the future. If you can't think of anything, just comment something like, wow, Rary, so based, much wow. With that said, I'm going to try and get some sleep. Y'all have a good one. Peace.